There's some nice birds in the background.
I was going to ask if maybe I should shut my door. It's such a nice day. I thought I'd leave the door open a crack, but there's a cardinal very close to the door here that just sings all day, starting at about 5:15.
Well, that's cool though.
It is very cool.
Nice
I love
A nice sounding bird.
Yeah. Wakes me up in the morning and I go with it. I'm like, okay, it's time to get up.
Yeah, I get woke up by some woodpeckers that are out front.
Oh, really? Yeah. Yeah. This time of year around here, they're drumming on the hollow logs. So there's a lot of drumming off in the distance.
Yeah.
What is the weather like in Sierra Vista, Frank?
Oh, it's nice. It was in the morning about 62-ish, and I don't know how hot it's supposed to get, but it's starting to get to where it's almost too hot in the afternoon. But hey, I like the heat actually.
Sure. Yeah, it's a very different kind of heat than what we get here in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
I remember being amazed by that. I stayed at the Southwest Research Station in the Chiricahua Mountains there near Sierra Vista. And I was amazed. We would take, it was a birding trip. So we would take like excursions out in the area around there. And it was so hot in the afternoon, but as long as you could get under shade, it was totally fine. You know, it could be 100 degrees, but as long as you're under some shade, it's not that bad. And that was so foreign to me, because here it's like, if it's hot no matter where you go. You can't get away from it.
I'm from out east, and that's what I remember too. Like it'd be like 85 and so humid that you could never escape it. And it's like, yeah, like you're saying, as long as you're in the shade, it's much better here. Like, yeah, you go in the shade and it wouldn't matter there.
Yep. Can't get away from it.
That dry heat is a lot different. And
so that's a perfect segue. There's something I wanted to mention in the pre roundtable here. I'm going to share an image. So Acadicus, I don't know if I ever told you this, Frank, but Acadicus is named for the Latin word for the saw-whet owl.
Oh, okay.
So Aeolius Acadicus. I think it's technically pronounced Acadicus, so we're a little bit, we're calling it Acadicus because it sounds sort of like academy, academic, it's kind of, but it was named after this little owl.
Yeah.
And my dad spent his life like studying this owl. So researching it, banding it, studying the migration patterns. So we named it Acadicus. And the very first, so it's a tiny little bird that's not much larger than your fist. It's a very small bird. Wow. And, but I saw an owl smaller than this when I was near Sierra Vista in the Chiricahuas at the Southwest Research Station. I got my lifer elf owl. So the elf owl, and I'm going to need your help pronouncing that Latin name there, but it's Microthene whitneyi.
Yeah, it sounds like the specific epithet was after probably the person that had named it. That sounds like their last name or something, whitneyi.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
But we saw this in Portal, Arizona. So
yeah, okay.
We got it. It was in a tree, and we just happened to get a look at it. So it was a lifer for me. But it's even smaller than the saw-whet owl, and that just blew me away because I had grown up like around these saw-whet owls all the time, and this elf owl was just a tiny, tiny little bird.
Nice.
I used to take students to Madera Canyon when I was teaching in Nogales before. Yeah, so we'd take field trips to Madera Canyon all the time. I see
Very
that
cool.
Taken.
I was looking up online, and I don't think Portal is a very big town. There's like
it's
4 buildings or something.
Yeah, it's pretty small. Yeah. But
well, these will be available to everyone. We haven't officially started yet, so we always have a fun chat in the beginning of our roundtables. These owl slides will be available in the publicly available slides, so you'll be able to look at them on your own too. I know a fun fact about owls. They are the major predator of skunks.
Interesting.
The great, it's like the big owls, like
The great horned
great horned
owls.
owl and specifically.
Mhm.
And one of the things that birders do is like if you are outside and you smell a skunk and it seems to be coming from somewhere above you, it's probably a great horned owl that had a skunk dinner.
Yep, probably brought it back to some babies in the
And
nest. Yep.
but they don't care about the smell. It's just like the great owl. They're big and they're big. They're huge. Like the great horned owls are huge, and they just like they're the only bird, the only predator that like any animal that's desperate enough for starving will eat a skunk. But like they're the only predator that just is like, yeah, I'm eating skunks all the time. I had no idea.
Yeah. What's amazing around here in Arizona, which I didn't realize until I moved here, is that there's more skunks, different types of skunks here than in the East.
No kidding.
Yeah, more
Wow.
variations of skunks in this state.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Hey, Brendan.
Well, I remember when we were birding in that area around the Chiricahuas that, you know, it was always amazing to me. We'd go into these desert areas where it was kind of like, well, there's not going to be anything here. You know, this is just a wide open desert. And as the guide would kind of clue us into what was there, it was like, wait a minute, there's actually a lot of stuff going on here. And there would just be dozens of birds around us that we just didn't see until you settle down and look around. And the diversity of plant and animal life around that area is just amazing.
Mhm. Yeah.
We saw a crescent-chested warbler when I was there, which was a pretty big deal at the time because I saw it and I didn't know what it was. So I brought the guide over and he saw it and he said, well, I think that's a crescent-chested warbler. So he put it up on the birding network. And the next day when we came back to bird that same area, you couldn't even find a parking spot because birders had flown in from all over the country to see that bird.
Wow.
Yeah, it was really cool.
That's wild.
Yeah.
The birder network.
Yeah,
That's
the
cool.
birder network.
It's one of the things that the internet has just completely blown out of the water, right? It's just like anyone can
Yeah.
coordinate.
Have you ever used this new app? I forget, it's using a neural network. I forget what it's called. I'm gonna have to remember it, but it if you have it record the sound of the bird chirping, it'll send it to the neural network and help identify what it is.
Oh, cool.
That's
Yeah.
oh, so it's like what's that? Like I think it's called Shazam. I have it on my phone.
Yeah,
Like whenever I hear a
like
song,
Shazam.
I'm like, I just press the button and it's like, that's the song.
Shazam for birders. Yeah,
Shazam
exactly.
for birders.
That's hilarious. So it's Shazam for birds.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
An eBird is a big one. It's for tracking birds. It's like a citizen science thing by Cornell Laboratory. So you can
Wow.
report all your findings there, and then they aggregate it, and you get a lot of information and data about the birds and their
That is
migration.
awesome. That's awesome. Welcome everybody who's coming in now. This is the pre-part of the show where we just talk about different things, and we were talking about birds.
So the app is called BirdNet.
BirdNet.
Yeah.
Cool.
BirdNet.
Mhm.
Interesting. I'm just blown away. I can't stop thinking now about that. Using AI and neural nets to identify bird calls.
Yeah.
Just on your phone. The same way you do songs. The same way I do with Shazam. It's just like, yeah, that's that song. What is that song? Oh, that's the song.
It's amazing how much AI can do these days. It's just amazing.
It's wild. We'll give people. It's 1 minute past the hour. We'll give people a little bit more time to come in here.
We got Brendan is here. Brendan Mills and Jose. Jose is here. Good to see you.
And feel free to chat to all panelists and attendees. That's usually how we like to do these things. If you go into the chat, just we like to follow the chat during the course of this roundtable, and so just there's no compartmentalization of like, oh, here's the time when you can ask us questions or chat. It's like, please just go for it. Skynet for birds, Brendan. I think that's what it is. That's not so. If a Skynet that could identify bird calls and birds became self-aware, I think that would probably be the most benevolent sort of rise of the machines. It's like, yes, and this super intelligence can identify every bird on the planet. That's kind of nice.
Mhm.
It's not. That's not.
Oh, there's not like an Alfred Hitchcock kind of twist to it.
Don't go there. That movie freaked me out as a kid. Wow.
I remember watching that as a kid.
I was scared to go to the beach because like they show those seagulls like pecking at them. There's like a close up of a seagull going. "Arr,"
Did you know they actually made a sequel to that? It was so horrible though.
Oh no, really?
It like went, I think, straight to video or something.
Was
Yeah.
was it that was Hitchcock involved? He must have
Of
been.
course not, you know.
Hmm.
That would have made it good if Hitchcock was involved.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's wild. All right. Well, let's see. Where's everybody coming from? I'm in Montreal.
Madison,
John,
Wisconsin here.
Madison, Wisconsin. Frank,
Sierra Vista, Arizona.
Arizona. Florida. Craig is in Florida.
Oh, my
basement.
basement.
Oh, someone else in Arizona.
Yeah,
Nice.
Brendan and Jose are both joining from Cochise as well.
APA, Pennsylvania, cool. That's where I'm originally from.
Couple people from Pennsylvania. Nice.
British Columbia too.
Fantastic. Ontario, a couple people from Canada now.
Cool.
Yeah, it's a really nice day here in Montreal. It feels like summer. Although my power did go out this morning, which was a little stressful because it's like I kind of need the power to do this thing on the internet this afternoon. But summer is finally here in Canada in full force. Nice. Well, I think what I'll do is I'll start kicking things off. Thank you all for joining us. This is our pretty much every other week Acadicus VR Roundtable. And again, it's an opportunity for folks to tune in through just Zoom, no VR headset required. And we'd like to bring on different guests who are doing really amazing different things using Acadicus around education in virtual reality. And what I'm going to do is share my slides here. This is also going to all be recorded. So you'll be able to watch the recording at your leisure. The slides will be shared as well. So that page that you went to register on the acadicus.com website, that's the same page where you'll see all the recordings and links to the slides. So you'll be able to, all the slides that I'm showing you, you'll be able to have access to. And if you have any questions or comments, please just type them in the all panelists and attendees chat, and we keep an eye on that. And we'll if you have any questions or comments, we'll weave that into the conversation, because this is primarily a roundtable conversation. We bring people on who are doing amazing things with VR. We talk about what they're doing, give them an opportunity to talk about their journey through using VR to accomplish their goals. And then what we do about halfway through the program here, we actually go into VR live, and it's going to be really fun this time because Frank is all about anatomical models. So we're going to basically, I'm going to jump into VR wearing the headset, and John is going to jump into VR sharing his screen in Acadicus non-VR mode, which is a wonderful way for people who don't have VR hardware to go into these environments. And so basically, you're going to be seeing through his eyes like a camera of what's going on in VR, and I'll be able to hear you in VR, and we'll be all talking. It's all live without a net, so we like to have fun on Fridays. So I'm going to share my screen here and just walk through a little bit here. Let's see. There we go. Awesome. So Acadicus is a virtual simulation lab, and it's an environment where you're provided with a library of content to create different types of learning experiences. And the environments are very realistic. This is an example of an actual screenshot of what it looks like in Acadicus, and all of the equipment is very realistic. We actually even worked with GE Healthcare to build this virtual version of an anesthesia machine. And we always strive for high levels of realism, real-time shadows, all of that, the most detailed shading that we can get, because these are environments where it's really important that it looks like it does in the physical world. But the amazing thing about these environments is not just the stuff that's in them, but the fact that they are full of people. Right. And in this case here, we have, example of people actually logging into the environment in both non-VR mode and VR mode. And the way it looks in this space is, if you're in non-VR mode, you're identified as this, like a little cone here, and you can choose or not to choose to have a picture of yourself here so people can see a picture of your face, and you can have your name over you. And you have full agency. You can move around in this environment. You can actually click on things to move things. And over here, you see an example of John, who's actually logged in VR mode, and so you're able to see his head moving and his hands and his fingers moving. This is how you'll see me later in the program. And actually, this slide even highlights it even better for you, because it also shows you the example here of Dr. Slayman, which is he's actually a recording. He's not here, but he recorded himself doing a procedure. And when you play back a recording, it's like the holodeck in Star Trek, where it's, you say playback, when this person walked through a room, and you can actually see them in 3D. You can hear him talking. You can pause the recording. In the case of him manipulating equipment or leads on a patient, he's actually moving things in the room, but he is a recording. And so for learners, it's a wonderful opportunity where an instructor can really leverage their expertise and share it with as many students as possible. And everyone can communicate with, well, unless you're not the recording, obviously, but non-VR folks can communicate with VR folks using voice, as you'll see today. You'll experience that firsthand. But for today, we're very excited. This is an example of in VR, some of the environments and models that Frank has worked on. And Frank Emanuele is from Cochise College, and he is a real pioneer in the use of VR with his classrooms, and he's been doing it for since 2018. And what we're going to do in this roundtable is explore some of these interactive VR anatomy models that he's developed. And they're very special because they provide not just a single user experience, but they are really fantastic for collaborative immersive learning opportunities with his students. So what I'll do is here's the cast of characters. And I'm John Lester. I also go by the nickname Pathfinder. I'm the Director of Community and Business Development at Acadicus. I have a background in healthcare, building online communities for patients and caregivers. And my focus at Acadicus is really around helping drive the growth of the people using the platform and looking for opportunities to help them collaborate with each other. And John, I'll let you introduce yourself.
I am John Brouchoud, founder and CEO of Arch Virtual, and we're the developers of Acadicus. I'll just leave it at that.
Cool. And Frank.
Hi, I'm Frank Emanuele. I'm an instructor of biology here at Cochise College, and been instructing here since 2016, all the different types of biology courses here. I've been teaching anatomy and physiology since actually 2002, which is crazy to think. I'll be almost 20 years next year. Okay.
Time flies. Time
Yeah.
flies. Cool. What we're going to do next is we're going to throw a short survey up. I'm actually going to, I'll stop sharing my screen for a moment. It's going to be a very brief survey that's going to appear on the screen. And we'd like to know who people are in the audience before we dive into things. And so what I'm going to do is a launch the questions. They're very simple questions. They're all yes or no, except the last one asks if you use any computer-based anatomy software, and you can say yes or no. And if you do answer yes, I would ask if you could type into chat what software you're using for computer-based anatomy. And I guess while we're waiting for that, so I mean, Frank, you've used a lot of different technologies. I mean, you how much experience? What was the experience like going from physical models to computer simulations of models? What were some of the big aha moments you had?
Well, what I love about this is we can scale it to any size we want. So we could walk, which I hope you guys will do, walk inside the skull, go around. I mean, basically have the skull, the inside of the skull, like a room around you. I mean, so you can scale in and out, but still be in 3 dimensions. I mean, you could do that with, some of the 3D software, but in VR, it's all around you. That's what I love about it. So, yeah.
So the real sort of immersion factor of like I always think of that movie Fantastic Voyage, not the remake but the original one
Yeah.
with Raquel Welch and who else was there? I can't remember. That bad guy, he's the bald guy. He always plays bad guys in like late 60s movies. But that idea of like being inside of something gives you such a sense of what the structure is in a you know, in a physical, in a three-dimensional structure, because you're actually like kind of walking through it. I think that is something in VR that I've noticed. People who, the first time they experience it, the first time they realize they can just look around, like you were saying, inside of a skull, that is really eye-opening. So let's see, how are people doing with the voting? Oh, Brendan says he uses Acadicus and Medcognition for anatomy software. Let's see. Give people another minute to answer questions here.
I have to give a shout out to John Walsh from Cochise College. When we first started working with Cochise, John was really a visionary leader in bringing VR to the college, and introduced me to Frank when I had the opportunity to visit Sierra Vista and show some of the things we were working on with Acadicus, and just really always appreciated his vision, and of course that he introduced us to Frank and really encouraged us to collaborate and build on this. So a lot of the collaboration that we're doing today, a lot of that was the origination came from a lot of John Walsh's vision. And then of course, Frank, taking it to the next level and bringing it into VR and using it in his classroom. It's just been a really exciting partnership and collaboration. So shout out to John Walsh for sure. He's a visionary.
Yeah, I want to second that as well. I mean, he got me into all kinds of, we tried all kinds of different types of VR platforms, like we were saying, till since 2018. So yeah, I second that for sure.
Nice. I'm going to share the polls now, the polling results. I'm going to, and so you all should see stuff pop up on your screen. It's always good to see a lot of people saying, yes, my leadership is involved. Most people have a headset and are experimenting. Most people have the Quest, and most do not have a dedicated physical space for VR training. That's challenging, because then you have to have a cart, you move around. Sort of a mix of faculty and IT support. IT support so important. I always say that it's so important if you're doing any kind of a project in with VR work, is having somebody on IT, the IT side of things, focusing on things. And most people aren't currently using computer-based anatomy. Interesting. All right. I'm going to close the poll. Mary, yeah, if you have no experience and no heads, that's fine. This is a roundtable for people who are of all levels of expertise. We have a lot of people who come to our roundtables who are actually, just beginning their journey of exploring what's the art of the possible, and beginning to think about how to achieve their specific educational goals. So I'm going to share my screen here again, and I need to, let's see here. I'm going to, oops, hold on a second. I just realized I need to share the sound, because there's going to be an audio clip here. Here we go. So this is, I'm going to play this video clip that Frank gave us.
So what bones is it all connecting to, as we know now?
Maybe Frank, if you want to talk over what's happening in this environment.
The temporal bone, good, and the...
So this was the setup we have for our students in our classroom here at Cochise, with the help of Brendan and Jose.
Going here, and then we have the temporal over there. So the
So
process...
I'm guiding them through the anatomy of the skull right now in this.
Does everybody see my hand? So this is then the process that will connect to the frontal. So that's
That's
the
so
frontal
cool. They're all in
process.
there at the same
Okay.
time.
And we would have
That's really neat. That's very cool.
so what bones is it all?
Okay, well, I'm going to walk through these slides. So Frank, tell me when I'm your slide controller. So tell me to go to next slide whenever you want to go to the next slide, and I'll walk through
Yeah,
these slides
I
of
need to
yours.
unmute. Okay. So we can go to the next slide. This is just, we'll go through how a workflow would work for the lab that we just saw them, the first part of the lab. So in the way, this is a series of weeks. So first we go through the skeleton, and so you can go ahead and click, and I think it should bring up the,
Next slide.
in this slide. I don't know if it's showing, there it goes.
Okay.
So what we did is, so in my labs, my lab handouts that the students have, they have these where it's basically the same types of models we would have in the VR environment, but on paper, and then blown up also for the particular larger pieces you want to look at larger scale, like the whole upper limb we have here, so that we can then look at the individual bone markings we would have on there. So next slide. And so essentially the workflow would be, we'd have them work on the bones in the environment, have them explore on their own, explore with them, sort of like what we saw the video of. Use the skeletons then in that environment to have them look at and make sure they know their bone markings. And then they can complete then a lab handout of those sections just on the bones. So next slide, please. So here you can see how they would then in the environment maybe just look at the upper limb. And here we have the upper limb type of menu up where you can individually look at each bone. And then they would be able to go in right up close to it, and like it was, you know, the actual bone was there. And we could have larger scale of it if we would want to look at markings even more detail. But then what they would do on their lab sheet was mark that where the markings are, make sure that they understand where those bone markings are, because these will be where the muscles will start and insert and end. So the starting points and the ending points of the muscles would be these different markings they need to know. Next slide. So then in the next week, what they would do is look at the individual muscles, like we'll see how it's set up where they can choose each individual muscle. They're assigned a group of muscles for that week, and they would go through in their lab handout and take the headset off after they've looked at one, and knowing their bone markings, then they could start to draw in the muscle where it would be. So as you will see when we look at the VR, you can choose each individual muscle and where it's attaching. You could look at groups of muscles and how they work with each other. So this would be the first thing to do first, is to show how have the students know exactly, well, where is the muscle starting, where is it ending, so that you can then start to talk about actions and things like that. Next slide. And so here's just another example of how you see in the VR environment, like when we go in, we have just the biceps brachii enabled there, and then they would just use that, take their headset off, and draw where that is in. Now, the advantage of this over than just looking in a textbook where you could do this is that they can go right up and see exactly in 3 dimensions where everything's attaching. And that's the beauty of this. Next slide. So then you could assess them either in the environment. That's the beauty of this, is that now, you know, you could have this in a distance learning. So say you want to tutor a student as well, say even if they're at home, they could then connect with Acadicus and then go through and help them if they're having difficulties. And then we could also have your typical practical also in this environment, where you take each individual student, have some of them study while they're in the other parts of the room, but then assess them on the individual areas as well. Next slide. And so what we wanted to also talk about is how we did our COVID safe VR setup. So Brendan sent me this information of how exactly he did the setup. So next slide. So in social distant COVID consciousness, you want to keep in mind the CDC types of guidelines. So we looked at, okay, well, how many people are going to be in the room? So we had a small class of 6, so each student had their own area. So we had 5 students instead of 6, but we could have 6 potential areas. We made sure that everyone was wearing a mask and that they could wear latex gloves as well to, and then bring sanitary wipes to then wipe down the areas. Next slide. And so we would always make sure that the students are not getting within 6 feet of each other while they're in the simulation. So as they have the headset on, of course, the VR techs would have set up their environment ahead of time. So it's in that range. So then the VR helps them know where their boundaries are as well. And then if students were having technical difficulties, they would just take the headset off, wipe it down, and then we would figure out the problems. And then also after everything's said and done, they'd wipe down. And then it was wiped down beforehand as well, before they'd start. Next slide. So we watched the video of the VR in the classroom. So that was what we saw at the beginning there. Next slide. And so if you do have any questions, here's Brendan, and Brendan's on actually in the session today. So there's his contact information if you'd like.
Was he the camera guy?
Was it you, Brendan, or was it Jose?
He was commenting in chat, what a great camera guy. So I'm assuming he was talking about himself.
Okay. And I believe that's it. Next slide.
Awesome. Yeah. You know, what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch back to regular video. Just before I do that, though, these slides will be available, and we always like to include other screenshots for folks to learn more about things. But one thing I would like to mention is that we have office hours when we're not doing these roundtables, and so the next office hour is next Friday, and it's basically an opportunity just to drop in and either drop in Acadicus, which you can download for free and use for free to access different public environments. But you could also join us by, we're going to live stream our office hours in Discord. So if you'd like to connect with myself and John, or maybe anyone else who shows up, we never know who's going to show up. It's always fun. But you can find more information about that on the Acadicus VR Roundtable web page. And this last slide here, which you have access to, provides all of the different links, including the main link here, which is the link to these slides that you're looking at right now, and Frank's contact information if you'd like to get in touch with him, and a link to our Discord community if you want to learn how to join us there. So I'll stop sharing there.
I also want to mention that on the 23rd, we're going to have an Acadicus VR Roundtable with Dr. Eric Bauman. So he'll be sharing his simulation to practice pathway and some of his projects. We actually have some really interesting 3D diagrams that we created with him. So on the 23rd, nice. Eric B. Bauman.
Nice. So Frank, it's really interesting. Your students are using kind of a hybrid approach, right? So they're in VR, and then they're actually using paper to draw the muscle. Can you speak more about that? Because it seems like it's complementary.
Yes, I mean, you want to get in as many different modes of styles of learning as possible, I feel. So to have then by drawing along with the visual, then you're getting more dimensions in there as well, to really show, then that way you can see, well, are they really knowing exactly where the muscle attaches? And so they really have to master the markings of the skeleton first, really, or as they go, because if they don't know what those markings are, then they're not going to be able to articulate that when they draw it, and when they talk about it in practicals or so a lot of I mean, sometimes some students may feel it's overboard depending on what their goals are, but definitely when you talk about the musculoskeletal system, you want to talk about origins and insertions and how the muscle acts, and because then you may have students that are physical therapy majors that you're using A&P for that, and that definitely is a huge part of it. So.
Interesting. And before VR, they would just they had to rely on just physical plastic models and.
Yeah, the problem with plastic models that we have is that all the muscles are attached to them. You can't use them so with the way this is set up, you can look at each individual muscle or a group, whatever muscles you want to turn it on or off, and then that way you can really see the depth of what muscles. So if a muscle's on top, it's superficial. If it's further down, it's deep. So you can see those relationships between deep and superficial muscles that you can't on a three-dimensional model, and that you usually purchase and have in your labs.
Interesting. We have a question from the attendees. Has it been a consideration to expand this to kinesiology? Can never pronounce that word.
Kinesiology.
Kinesiology, manual muscle testing, ROM testing practice for PT and OT.
I would love to.
That would be really cool.
What would be really cool is to be where we could animate the muscles, sure, to where, based on, where they're attaching, say, okay, then have them animate that. They could speak more to that as to whether that, how hard that would be to do, but I would love to see that eventually to where we could add that in, sure.
And Mary Carr is also commenting that she taught university kinds, and it's stressful. Be cool if they could practice this way first, in a consequence-free environment. It's interesting how you're talking about, Frank, that it's not just about what you're seeing, but what you're not seeing, what you're able to turn off in the virtual environment, because it's malleable. You can see, I don't want to see this muscle in front of me. I want to see the one underneath it, or like a bone structure. I don't want to see all of the bones of the skull. I just want to see some of these bones that are kind of hidden. Very interesting. You know what I think, because this is such a visually intensive thing, I think it's time for me to just jump into VR right now, and we can just keep the conversation going, and I'll just be in VR. What do you guys think?
Sounds good.
Good plan.
All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off my video here, but people will still be able to hear me, and I'll be able to hear you. And I'll see you in, looks like room 7140. So see you on the other side.
I think maybe 0377. Let's use.
Oh, 0377?
Yeah.
0377.
So I will share my screen. In the meantime.
Oh, just to confirm, it's 0377?
Correct. Yep.
Okay. So see you there.
So if anybody is interested in trying out Acadicus, you can go to acadicus.com. Right up at the top, there's an install Acadicus button there. If you click on that, you can learn about the hardware requirements. And if you enter your email address right here and download the installer, you can install the application. And then the first screen that you'll see when you first open it up, I lied, actually the second screen because I already clicked through, but you first choose between VR and non-VR mode. So if you have a compatible PC VR connected, you can go into VR mode. I'm going to go into non-VR mode and select my microphone. And I'm going to log in as an administrator. Every organization using Acadicus has their own room number. So kind of like joining a Zoom call, you enter in that passcode and you enter into that space. We're going to go to 0377. And I'm going to be in non-VR mode. John is going to be in VR mode, like you said. In non-VR mode, all I'm going to do is use my arrow keys to move around, and I'm going to use my right click on my mouse to look around the scene. So here we have the lovely anatomy scene that we created.
Can you folks hear me okay?
Yep.
Yep.
All right. Awesome.
And it was really fun creating the scene. We were when we first finished up the Adam Izabi from our team created these assets. As soon as he had these ready, we met with Frank, and chose the environment that we wanted to be in. We originally were in this like really kind of a relatively constrained kind of classroom type space. And we had the idea of bringing it outdoors, bringing it into an outdoor environment, because why not? We're in VR, we can do whatever we want. Let's have a nice, beautiful day with a blue sky and some trees. And
oh, there, you're behind me. I'm sorry.
there you are.
Hey, how you doing?
Hey, John.
Yeah, this feels like a beautiful summer day, and it's like, and I love that you can the sun is shining through this portal in the ceiling. It's beautiful.
Yeah, and Stefan Monette came in during that meeting and helped us get this all set up, so he was able to position the assets exactly as we wanted them. And this is what we came up with. So I don't know, Frank, do you want to talk a little bit about the kind of the layout or positioning of the assets? One of the things that we did was creating these assets that are facing two different ways. And
so you have the anterior view and the posterior view of the muscles.
oh yeah, we've got the muscle anatomy here. This was the very first one we did. And we can zoom in. Maybe I'll just walk right up to this one here. We can see how you can isolate each one of these different groups. And then the really cool thing is you can then go to the next area here, and you can isolate every single individual group from there.
I love, just getting right in there, to the point where I'm almost like standing inside the skeleton. It's like I'm in there. And and this is everything that John is changing in terms of what's being visualized, I'm seeing as what any other student or anyone else who's in the environment. It's all happening in real time, with everyone being able to see it. And with VR in particular, you can get very specific about identifying, pointing to things with your fingers and manipulating things. It's really, really amazing. I can even put my head inside of his chest.
Yeah.
I see his diaphragm. I see the diaphragm. And I see
yeah, that's what's amazing about it. So you could, like, again, where you can, with your position, be able to see superficial, closer muscles, deeper muscles, based on that as well, which is just so cool.
Yeah, you're not able to see it from John's perspective, but everything is being rendered inside as well. So when I put my head into his chest, I see everything rendered inside his chest. I see this diaphragm. I see every muscle. It's pretty cool.
So to speak to how it was set up is that we have, like you were mentioning, we have the muscles on one side of the room, we're going to have the skeleton on the other, and then we have the skull enlarged in the very central part of the room. So that then this would be like what we would do after we've gone through the skull, the all of the bones of the skeleton, so that we could then review these things together and then start on the muscle together as well.
It's really wild looking inside the nasal passages. It's yeah.
Then we can isolate the different groups here as well.
Yeah.
And then again, drilling even deeper, we can isolate every one of these individual pieces.
Like if you isolate the one that says Vomer there, that's the one normally that you can't see on a three-dimensional model that well by itself. So it really shows. So the thing about the Vomer means in Latin plowshare. So it was named for its shape to look like it looks like a plow. So, and now you can really see that really well. Unless you, I mean, you do have models where you can have explodable models where you take this out, but I mean, so now you could have the Vomer and you could add in the nasal conch if you can isolate, like hide everything, but maybe we hide everything but the nasal conch and the Vomer.
Oops, let me.
So, because I think we can't isolate two, so you would have to hide everything but those two.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And then unclick that. Is that right? Did I get them?
And yeah.
Oh yeah, these two.
in those two.
There we go.
And now you can see how the relationship of those deeper bones are with each other really well.
That's really cool.
Oops, let's see here.
Got the skeleton, and we got some skeletons over here too. Brought that right
And
into
they're,
the scene
they're
here.
set up over there in the anterior and posterior views as well.
Same thing here. We can isolate these different groups. I use the muscle visualization to, you know, I had a little pain in my back, and I was trying to figure out which muscle was that and how can I start to stretch it and pull it a little bit. And I was able to drill down to the exact one little muscle that was bothering me.
I'm just walking around carrying the skeleton over here. I love this. I love it. It's like, let's pick them up, you know, but I love this because, you know, we had a previous roundtable where Bill Ballo was a guest, and he was talking about how he broke a bone in his foot and he was trying to show it to people on the camera. And so one of the limitations you have, you know, when you're in non-VR mode is you can't pick up and manipulate things. But if you are, you know, if you're sharing your screen with a bunch of people in Zoom and you have somebody who's in VR mode, they can be your hands, and you could say like, hey, John, show me the bones that he broke. It's like, well, you see this bone right here, this one. You know, you can actually move objects right close to the, you know, the person who's in non-VR mode, and really get in there and be like, yeah, exactly. There's this bone right here, this one right there, and he broke, you know. There's just something fun about carrying around. I like this too because I don't have a body. You don't have a body in VR, and I can go like this. It's like, you know, I have a skeleton. And it's like I can look down at myself and identify like, okay, here are the short ribs, and here's where the danger zone where the liver just kind of peeks out right here, and that's you don't want to get hit there. And I can look down at my pelvis and my knees and my arms, kind of, you know, you can get a real sense of like, oh, that's how the radius and the ulna rotate. I can see it.
So yeah, then it's almost like it's augmented reality in that case. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Got to get the right height there. There we go. My head. Ta-da. Nice. And I'll just put him under my arm and just walk away. Walk away. I'll put him over here. Just stand him there. Yeah. So what are other things you have in the works, Frank, in terms of visualizations? Because you talk a lot about how, you know, the scaling, being able to make you know, large immersive experiences around anatomy and so forth. What are you dreaming about doing next?
So the other thing we have in the works is a simulation of the immune system, where we'll be in an environment, say inside a wound, and seeing how an infection starts and how each of the different cells of the immune system will help to either destroy a virus or a bacterium. So like you were talking about, that Fantastic Voyage type of idea of that, yeah, where you're down in there, because that's something definitely you can't see the immune system other than, you know, in microscopes or electron microscopes, and then this would be a way of actually being in there with the immune system and showing how it will work.
And it's interesting, you know, my background is in neurology, and I often think about how these environments work with how your brain naturally wants to remember things and learn, you know, and our brains, our minds are designed to want to be in places and to be able and to remember places and what happens in those places. And so, you know, if you're looking, I know myself personally, you know, when I was learning about the immune system in school and all that, like you're looking at pictures or maybe a video, and it's like, I can't imagine that world. I'm not there. But being inside of a simulation of, you know, an immune system at work and a wound healing and so forth, your brain is recording everything that's happening in there at such high fidelity because it is a place. Your brain is treating it as a three-dimensional place, especially in VR mode where it's in stereoscopic perspective, and you remember things better. your brain remembers what happens in places better than anything else, because that's how, our brains were designed to work, to help us survive in places and remember what happened in them, so that we could be, so that we could survive and flourish. So when I saw the Fantastic Voyage movie, I remember thinking, man, I just want to. I can imagine blood vessels now so much better, even just watching it on a movie and kind of fantasizing about being in it, but being able to actually do it in VR, that sounds fantastic. That sounds fantastic.
Yeah, really looking forward to developing that one. We're going to be getting started on that one really soon, because I think we're through the design phase on that, and start the implementation and developing the animations and programming for it. So that'll be really cool. Maybe we can have another roundtable when those are done. We can talk about that.
That would be great.
That'd be really fun.
And these kinds of environments too, people can, when I was putting on my headgear, John, maybe you mentioned it, I didn't hear it, but anyone can come into Acadicus through the Acadicus Commons, download the software for free, log on to the Acadicus Commons for free. The Acadicus Commons is kind of like our IKEA, where all of the assets that people have been working on that are in our shared public library, our content library, is on display for you to look at and experience for free. And you can visit all of these different environments. But that would be a place that they could go to see these models, as well as be able to, see future things like, take a tour of the immune system. Now, did we show them like things I always miss the beating heart. That's my favorite.
Yeah. That's in the anatomy scene from the Commons. If you go to the Commons, there's an anatomy board there, and there's a cross section of the heart there.
Cool. All right. Are there any other models that we want to show here, or are there any other places we should go? Any questions from in chat from the attendees? Tell me to do something in VR and I'll do it, but within reason.
Yeah. Does anybody have any questions?
Would you like me to hold up part of this skeleton? Yeah, here we go. Come over here, buddy. Just carry you under my arm. Come over here. What would you like me to show you on the model here? Would you like a better view of the skull? There you go. Much better view of the skull. This is where the masseter goes through that bone there. Doo-doo-doo.
And these were open source, or I guess Creative Commons models. So Frank actually identified a source for this where these 3D models came from, and we were able to download those, and we've got attribution credits on each one of these assets. So people can see where those source models came from. But
Nice.
How did you find those originally, Frank? Those are really cool models, extremely detailed.
So I was searching for all kinds of tools to use in teaching anatomy, and about how long ago is that now? Maybe 7 years ago, I came across that site. It's called anatomography. Always hard to say, but it basically it is a scan of a cadaver, every last organ of a cadaver. So these are, based in. It's a Japanese website, so it's I forget which university in Japan, but they scanned with the 3D scanner every last organ of a cadaver, and that's where these come from.
Wow. I mean, and it's a huge challenge trying to get a physical model in the physical world, right? I mean, it's especially because you can't scale size. And also you can't scale the number of them. So if you have like 10 students and you have one of these in the physical world, it's like, well, you're going to have to crowd around this one to interact with it.
And like you were saying too, I mean, if the student wants to go in with their own view and see, basically looking at a section deeper in, you can't do that with the physical model. You can't, with the physical models we have in real space, you're limited to whatever the manufacturer had set it up for. So,
mm-hmm.
Just checking out my pelvis here. It's like, there's something.
So in the chat, they're asking, can we do a microscopic view? Like how much detail do you mean microscopically?
In a way, I guess that's what we're talking about doing with the immunology assets.
Yeah.
Yeah, like a giant cell, a giant strand of DNA. Exactly like Fantastic Voyage. Yeah.
But for here, you can zoom in to maybe right on a bone marking, like in that, with the real model. I mean, you're limited to what the size would be, but you could go right in great detail. And like, I mean, with what he's doing, he's able to scale it too. So you could even scale that even larger to
I got
go right
pointed
in it.
things.
If you grab that skeleton, John, and then you're in that flyout menu, go to like an edit mode, select like 10x.
Oh, like blow it up?
Yeah.
Oh. Okay. Are you sure? Because this could get crazy.
You want me to make crazy?
You want me to wait?
Let's
You want me to
make
make the skeleton giant? You want me to make it huge?
Let's make Ant-Man into Giant Man.
Okay, here we go.
See what happens.
You're asking me to do this. This is all live without a net on a Friday. It's fine. Let me see here.
So in edit mode, if you select it on the slide out panel there should be scales. You can go like 1x, 2x, 10x.
Let me see. Okay, here we go. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to do 10. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
I think it'll work. Yeah, these are a little different than any other asset we've done, so I'm not positive this is going to work.
Are we ready?
Yeah.
What could possibly go wrong? This is a Friday real time here, and I'm going to leave it hand grabbable. And 3, 2, 1, 10 times. Whoa, okay.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, cheapers. Wait, I can't find my menu. Wait. This is awesome.
It's amazing, isn't it?
This is awesome. Hold on a second. Let me get
like John is having the best experience because he can look around, like he can stand right in the pelvis.
I'm bringing him down. I'm grabbing him by the. Can you see me? Like I'm grabbing these giant ribs. Each rib is like. This is insane. I feel like I'm climbing a ladder.
You're scaling the ribs.
I feel like I'm climbing it, but yeah, I'm climbing the rib cage. Here we go, here we go. I'm gonna have his here. I'm gonna rotate his hand so you get a nice view of his hand right in your face, John. Here we go. Ready? Here it comes. Whoa.
Whoa! I'm on top of it.
I'm moving it away. Here's get the collider away from you. There you go.
Ooh, there we go.
There, I'll leave him there.
Wow, that is cool. Wow.
That is yeah, and this is all real time and live. I mean, this is, this you could do this kind of thing with students in real time as well. We're proving it here that you can do it. You never know what's going to happen sometimes, but in this case, everything just worked fine. Look at those fingers. Each finger is just like a tree trunk. I could like hang out underneath the hand, just be like, okay, I'm going to crouch down here. No.
So that would be, I mean, there you go. You could have a lecture on the bones of the wrist.
Yeah.
Like sitting underneath the wrist. I mean,
we're all sitting under the wrist.
How cool is that?
Yeah, all the students are sitting under the bones of the wrist. And it's still, it's the models are manipulatable, can be manipulated. I said it actually so that like anyone could manipulate this. So anyone who is in, that felt weird. So anyone who's in this scene, you have permission. So I could set it up like I did now, where anyone in this environment could grab this model and move it around, or you could restrict that, or make it so they can only grab parts of it. Take apart only certain things. It's all up to you. I'm gonna move him out here, outside, because I just want to see him standing.
in the courtyard.
All right, watch it. This is a wide load here, like when you're moving houses. Wide load. Oh my goodness. Okay, I am gonna stand him. I gotta go back and like climb down his ribs. I'm gonna do it from his back here. So I'm gonna lift him up. Here we go. Oh, Goliath. Here you go. I'm walking past the pelvis, and there's the coccyx, which my father broke one time doing a cannonball into a lake. I remember that. That was very bad. And I think Let me see here. I think I might be. No, I'm still here. Oh, I got to get his leg. Where's his foot? Oh, no, that's his knee. Not to his foot yet. It's like, that's the patella. No, here's a femur. Oh, almost there. Okay. He's a little tilted. Wait, let me set him up here. Okay. All
There we
right.
go.
There we go. Where are you? I don't even. Oh, there you are. Can you see me?
Yep.
I am. That's a weird view, but I am. This is quite the large size.
If you select it and make it teleportable, you could just teleport up. You can teleport onto the model.
Oh, I think
It might be hard to select it from inside.
That's okay. Yeah, I had to get out. I had to skate. Wow, look at that. Okay,
That is so cool.
I'm gonna try and do that next. Let's see, edit.
Someone asked, the skeleton is currently visible. Can you see other organ systems in the same view? We do have another model that has inner organ systems. There goes John, scaling.
Oh, God. Oh boy. Okay. This is, this is as high as I'm gonna go.
You're not afraid of heights, are you?
on the shoulders of giants, but this is beautiful. This is, how you doing down there? I'm gonna go out on the hand. You ready? Here we go. Can you imagine this, having a whole classroom? I see you. You look like an ant down there. You can have a whole class of like, okay, we're all going to meet on the ulna, left ulna. Ready? Here we go. That's a good location. I like the left ulna. This is a good one. All right, I'm going to climb back down his chest. I'm just going to see if I can get down here. Oh, that is a little. I'm not scared of heights, but it is so realistic, and here we go. Now I'm on his foot. I'm back.
Welcome back.
That was an adventure. It's a good day for a skeleton climb, though. It's nice and clear, blue skies. That was awesome. Whew.
Yeah, but we do have the other anatomy in the if you go to the commons and go to the anatomy scene, there's a bunch of internal anatomy there as well. So we've got the brains and liver and lungs and all kinds of stuff there.
Yeah. And you can also have anatomy models that are actually animated. So like we have a beating heart that you can hold and like stick your head, and you can scale it up and get inside, the chambers of the heart and see the valves doing their thing. It's really amazing. So you can, the other thing to think of with these assets is, you can start out realistic sized and then go, you saw how quick it was, how easy it was to scale the thing. You just go, make it 10 times bigger and you're done. All right. Well, I know we have like 5 minutes more. Any other questions from folks in the attendees?
Brendan says, "Oh, great skeleton, give us great fortune." Jose says the Liberty skeleton. Yeah, the skeleton of Liberty.
Skeleton of Liberty. Just
thanks for joining, Sean.
I like watching the clouds through his ribs. Just the clouds kind of, I think, looks like they're moving by, they're blowing through his ribs.
So there was a question in the chat about movable elements to demonstrate muscle action. Is that something that we could have, where if we have different points where we could move to show the movement?
Yeah, that was something Chuck Benson from Madison College was asking us about that recently, and he was talking about the insertions as well, and was trying to figure out ways that we could do this. And yeah, it's a more complex animation for us, but definitely something we can do. We've got great modelers and great animators on our team that could develop something like that. So I think that could definitely be something we could explore.
Yeah, you're not seeing any of these things moving, but these 3D models can have that kind of movement. And there's even in 3D modeling, it's called, the models can have skeletons and be rigged so that they actually move, the bones move realistically as the different muscles are moving. So that's completely technologically possible. Yeah.
I think that was the only other.
All right, cool.
Did you see any other questions that I missed? Or?
I don't think so. Let me see.
I like that he's shadows on the. You see his shadow on the ground? The skeleton's
yeah.
shadow. You don't see the shadow through his bones because he's got like this sort of skin capsule that is blocking the light. So you see his shadow as if he had skin. But we could edit the model, remove the skin so that you actually see a shadow of his bones. Cool. All right. Well, it's about the hour, and let's see here. Close that menu.
Get a distant view here.
Do you want me to pose for scale? It's like, hey. I feel like what's that thing is it in Wisconsin, the largest ball of twine or something? Is that
I
where
should
is
know
that?
that. If
In
it's
the
in
Midwest?
Wisconsin, I don't know. Yeah.
But here it is. I'm posing in front of the largest human skeleton. It's the
There we go. Get it
Hi.
all into context.
Hey, how's it going?
That's cool.
How's it going? Liberty skeleton. All right. Well, it's a good day to be a giant skeleton, nice and clear. All right. Well, I want to thank everybody for coming. We will have the recording of this online. Check again the Acadicus VR Roundtable page on the Acadicus website, because we will also post a link to the slides. And the slides have all the additional information that you saw in the slides that we were showing, including how to contact Frank. Frank, thank you so much for walking us through this and talking about what you're doing in your future dreams. And I look forward to a fantastic voyage in
Thank
That'll
you.
be fun. Yeah, thank you very much, Frank. This is
Thank you
great.
so
I
much,
really
Frank.
appreciate you joining us today.
Yeah, and thank you everyone who showed up to watch this. And again, remember, everything that we're doing, you could do with your own students. It's just requiring Zoom and Acadicus, and someone in VR, someone in non-VR. Very easy. If you ever want to get in touch with us, we do have our roundtable, our open office hour next Friday. So hope to see you then, and have a great weekend, and have dreams of giant friendly skeletons.
Have a great weekend, everyone. Thank you.
Take care.